Hello. So in this video I'm going to show the basic process of picking out dynamic joint chains using bonus tools on the Gecko rig. So this is Quinn's skeleton and Gecko. I've torn out everything except for just a root, and I don't even need the feet, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete those. So I just got a root node and a hips node as far as a rig. Just threw a quick little shader on just for color. And so so I've got the cape skeleton, the cape, I've got the gecko skeleton, and I've got the gecko, and I also have this collide mesh. So this is what I'm going to use for collision for the cape. So I don't need that on the entire model. It's best to have this on a separate surface because I tried this earlier and I made just the original surface the collide mesh, and it wound up screwing up some other things. So I just made a separate mesh, and this is also bound to the skeleton. So if we were to turn the skeleton on, that's bound. But anyway, this is going to be my collision mesh. So I'm going to hide it for now. And so what I'm going to do is, with my post to shelf script, this is how I would recommend you use for mocap editing, how I've explained it, demonstrated it. So I'm going to grab the tail and I'm going to select the hierarchy, and with post to shelf I'm going to create tail N for tail neutral. I'm going to do the same thing with the cape skeleton rather. So let's grab that. Actually, let's just grab each one of these. Okay, and select the hierarchy. And I'm going to use a cape N for cape neutral. I'm going to want to double check this because I think I had some I think there was some penetration here. Yes, there was with the cape. So I'm going to need to come in and maybe see what I can do about taking these joints. Joints are a little bit bound to the arm. So with some clean binding, you're going to want to make sure that you don't have any collisions already happening, and there are. So there's some binding, there's some weighting issues that I would need to take care of. I'm not going to do that in this video, but you don't want to start with the geometry penetrating. I've seen that in another rig, so you definitely don't want to start with it in that situation. So anyway, so if these were to simulate and get all wacky, if I just click on, let me redo that. So the reason that didn't work is because I need to come in and grab each one of these. And I need to select the hierarchy. Looks like I deleted the wrong one here, so let's delete that. And then let's add the this one back for the tail. Okay, so I've got a tail neutral. And I've got cape neutral. So if I were to click on these buttons, they're going to go back. So you'll need like an idle pose for your tail and your cape so that you can blend back to those initial positions. And it wouldn't be in a T-pose, it would be like from an idle pose. Okay, so now that that's done, I've got a collision mesh, got that, so I'm ready to start with my joint chains. Okay, so I'm going to go back to rig. I'm going to go to bonus tools, under rigging, and I'm going to go to make joints dynamic. And whatever you do, don't reset the settings or Maya will crash. I'm going to start with the tail. So let's select the first joint, the last joint, and I'm going to keep the stiffness at normal. So this does all this for you with the dynamic joints, but I'm going to make the curve detail high for the tail. Reason being, when I tried it with low, it would kind of stretch the tail out a little bit. So I want to keep it at high to kind of preserve the shape of the tail. So let's click on create. You can see I've stretched it just a touch, just a hair. It's not too bad. I suppose I could maybe I could grab that node and move it. Nah, that's okay. All right, next thing to do is let's muck around with the simulation. So when I created, when I use the bonus tools to and I'm just going to take this and I'm going to throw it on my shelf. Also, I'm going to start playing around with the dynamics. So what I'm going to need to do is give myself some more frames. Let's give let's be 10,000. And I'm going to go to my settings here, and I'm going to click on free and play every frame. And also really important, under effects and solvers, I'm going to come down to interactive playback. And I'll just put that on my shelf. So I already had a copy of it here, but Control-Shift-Click, put it on your shelf. So now what I can do is with click on that, and you can see what the tail is going to do. So I try to keep its shape a little bit. Got a little bit wobbly, so I'm going to stop, rewind. Let's press play again. And now what I could do is grab the base, and I can kind of fling this around and just see how it would behave. Okay, so let's come back and reset this to 0. So it's a little floppy, maybe a little more floppy than I want it to be. So I'm going to go edit a few attributes. So under dynamic hair joint stuff 1, I'm going to go to the hair system. Let's go to the attribute editor, and I'm looking at the hair system shape node. Now if I come down, a lot of these attributes have already been set with the bonus tools, make joint dynamic command. But what I'm going to do is play around with the start curve attract. So when this creates the IK spline handle, it creates a curve that goes through the joints. And so what I'm going to do is just turn this start curve attract on, and it's going to make the character try to it's going to make the tail try to retain that shape. So let's click that again, and let's start the simulation. Now if I crank this up, you can see that it's going to try to retain that shape. So I think I'm going to just get something about like that, and I can always play with it a little later. I'm also going to play around with these settings a little bit. So I know I'm going to want to take the motion drag up a little, and the drag. And now let's just start moving things around. So I think that's pretty close to what I want. You know, I just want some dynamics out of the tail, but I don't want it to get all crazy. So I could probably take the drag and the motion drag even down just a little bit. So let's rewind, play. Okay, so I like that for the tail. Stop. Let's come back here and reset the position. So now what I'm going to do is maybe create some keyframes. So I'm pretty happy with how the tail's working. So I'm going to go to like 200. So the first thing I'm going to do is set a key for the root, and what I'm going to do is just let things settle for maybe 30 frames, maybe 60, and let's just key that again. And then at frame 60, what I'm going to have the character do is take off up to frame 90. So let's just move him up here a ways. Now there's update problems because of the nucleus solver, but not to worry, because that'll it'll try to work itself out. So I'm just going to take a quick step forward there. Maybe push him just a little further. And let's add just a little bit more into this. Alright, that's looking a little crude. Let's take the hips and let's just rotate that a bit. Key there, come back to frame 60, and let's set that at 0, and key that, and maybe here at 75, put it up like that, and then at 90, let's zero it out again. Okay, so this is just to simulate, you know, a little bit of rotation and see what we can get out of the tail. So let's reset it, let's play it. Okay, now let's see how it's going to play at 30 frames per second. Let's test that. Very cool. I like that. So let's rewind. Okay, so that's good. I'm liking the tail, so I'm going to save this out as save scene. Whoops, not archive. Save scene as gecko tail. Now I'm going to do the cape. So let's turn off the gecko. So now let's, and here I'm going to go back to medium. I'm not going to put a high resolution curve detail. Say create. No. Great. Oh, okay, whatever. It's going to ask me that every time. Great. And create. So let's just rewind this. So the cloth is a little wonky, so we're going to want to slow it down a little bit. So what we can do is, just like before, we can go into each one of these parameters, like I did with the tail, and muck around with the hair system here. Or I'll show you just a little shortcut. So I'm going to select them all, including the tail, the hair systems, and I'm going to go to Windows General Editors. Let's go to Attribute Spreadsheet. And I've made a button for that here. The parameters that I pretty much messed around with were drag. So these are the keyable things on the hair system, the follicles, the hair shape. So if we come over here, and again they were, I think they all had drag in front of them, we can see what I put on the tail. So I'm going to add something similar to the cape. Why don't I say 0.0? Why don't I say 0.1 here? And 0.05 here. Maybe 0.06. And let's see how that looks. So I'll bring up the attribute spreadsheet again. Let's turn those values down. Okay, I like that a little better. Let's turn on the collision mesh here, select that, and we're going to go to end cloth, not in hair, but in cloth, and make that a passive collider. Also with this passive collider, if we go to the attribute editor, we can turn the thickness on. And we can increase the thickness, so just to make sure that it doesn't collide with what else is going on there. I'm just going to turn that off. That's just for display. And let's turn off our skeleton. Let's turn everything off but polygons. And I probably will want to increase some of that maybe motion drag. I think what I might want to do is actually come in here with these guys and give them a little bit of the same treatment with the not collision properties, but the little bit of start curve attract. And hopefully that's I just lost my shelf. There it is. Okay, so I'm not seeing that here with the start. Okay, so you get the idea. It's just some tweaking of settings. Let's come back here. And so now what I would do would be to, I'd save this out. Say tail and cape. Let's just make sure I'm set to, now let's go to 30 frames per second. Okay. So now what I would do would be to come to the skeleton, select the hierarchy, and that's all the joints, and let's go to let's bake out all the rotations. And then let's go to just the hips and let's bake out the translations. Okay, so now all the joints are baked out. So now what we can do is come in and delete that. We could delete all this dynamic joint stuff. Could delete the nucleus. Could delete the mesh. And now I've got dynamics on our character. And this is going to all update in real time now. We could come here and let's grab all of this, select the hierarchy. So we don't start our animation till what, frame 60. So we could delete everything before then. And we go up to frame 90. Maybe let it settle for a few frames. these. And let's move these down to frame 1. And let's say at frame 34 we want to have the tail set and the cape set. You could go to those specific frames and let's do that. Maybe delete that. Maybe just delete more just on the tail and the cape, and kind of leave the rest of the body alone. So, for example, the cape. Need this either. So the cape keys, maybe a few more keys there, delete, and certainly more towards the end. See how that looks. And I may need to go into just this joint here and kind of tap that down a little bit. And I'd probably do that just with these dynamic settings on that one. But anyway, that's 35 minutes and pretty much got this, pretty much got the animation figured out with the cloth. So I hope that helps. It's not perfect, but it's you can get a lot done with it, and the more time you spend tweaking your values, the easier it's going to be to get nice looking results. So have fun. Bye.